Hello and welcome to Rain Francis Art. My name is Rain. Today I'm going to show you how to paint this beautiful mountain scene with oil paints. We're using the Bob Ross style today, so let's begin. This is what I'll be using today for my painting. I'm using a dollar store canvas. It's 8 inches by 10 inches. And normally when I do oil painting, I put my canvas and I secure it onto my easel. But today, just for the purposes of the video, I've taped it down to my surface so it doesn't move, okay? And today I'm also not using my bright lights because I have a nice overcast day outside, so there's no sun coming in and out, which would change the light from, dark to light. The only thing is there might be some shadows, but the bright lights sometimes it's hard for me to see when they're on, but I think we'll be okay with the daylight, the natural daylight. So these are the oil paints that I'm using. I've got 3 colors. I've got white and black, and I'm using Prussian blue. You can use any blue that you want because you can always, Prussian blue is a darker blue. If you have a light blue, you can always mix it with a little bit of white. I love oil painting. It makes blending so nice, And I've just squirted some of that paint out onto my palette to get ready. Now today I'm just using 2 tools. I've got this 1-inch brush here and my palette knife. I'm doing this a la Bob Ross. All right, and to clean off our brushes, you need to have an odorless solvent. This is an odorless solvent for oil. I'll put the link in the description so you know exactly what I have. You can also use an odorless paint thinner. Just don't use a regular paint thinner or turpentine. That stuff reeks and it's no good for your lungs. And what I usually do is I put my odorless solvent into a mason jar that's labeled paint, so I make sure not to put my tomatoes in there after. And this is what we'll use to clean off our brushes, and this can be reused. Because what happens is when it finally sits, all of the paint residue goes to the bottom, so you can reuse this over and over. So why don't we start? I'm very excited here to do this. All right, so I've got my clean 2-inch brush here. And what I'm going to start with is some of the Prussian blue. And I'm going to pull that down a little bit. You see how kind of dark that is? So I'm going to grab a little bit of the white and mix that in to make it a nice light blue. And I'm just going to paint my canvas. And like I said, the great thing about oil painting is that you can blend immediately because it doesn't dry. It doesn't dry right away. Actually, I heard that it takes some oil paintings up to 12 months to dry completely. Isn't that crazy? I think the norm is 6 months, but I guess it depends on how thick your layers are. I need a lot more paint on my brush, so I'm going to take a whole bunch of paint there on both sides. A little more of that white. Now when Bob Ross paints, he uses, what does he call it? Liquid white. And that sort of makes the canvas a little wet to begin with. I don't have liquid white, so I'm just starting with the oil paint itself, and I'm going to cover the whole canvas. I don't want to see any of the white behind there. I used to do all of Bob Ross's, I'm going to add some white. I used to do all of his Joy of Painting classes. That's how I learned how to paint, actually. I started with oils. And then when canvas started getting a little too expensive for me, because I wasn't painting these small ones here. I'm just putting some white on my brush. I wasn't painting these small little paintings here when I started oil painting. I had those huge, I think they were 24 by 30 canvases, and they were pricey. But I was determined to learn how to paint, so I put in the investment, but then I just couldn't afford it anymore. So I started buying dollar store canvas, which isn't too bad actually. If you're just doing studies, you know, it's not too bad. I use the dollar store canvases when I'm doing acrylic painting too. Isn't that a pretty blue? I love this. So I've got my background pretty much all done. What I'm going to do is just clean off my brush. See? All of that blue comes right off. And very carefully squeeze out as much solvent as I can. I know Bob Ross goes like this, but I don't want to get it everywhere. And then I'm just going to wipe it off with my big bunch of paper towels here. And there's still going to be some blue in it, but that's quite all right. Now I'm going to grab some of that white and just blend it in the middle here. Because I don't want my sky to be really all that dark, because the mountain itself is going to be a little bit dark. You see how beautiful oil paints blend together? I just adore them. I think one of the reasons why I don't do as much oil painting is just because of the time it takes for it to dry. I have to hide it somewhere so the cats don't get at it. They're very curious about the smell of it. Okay, I think I have the color that I really like here. I'd like to put some clouds into the sky. Now, ideally it would be better if I had a whole bunch of these. I only have one, but I'm thinking now next time I go to the dollar store I'm going to invest in more, because I put it in the odorless solvent and I got as much blue out as I could, but I want to use white now, so I actually took another little bowl and I put more solvent in there to try to get as much blue off of my brush as possible. I'm being careful here, I don't want to spill. But I think I got a lot of the blue off there because I want to put some white onto the canvas. I don't suggest you do this over your painting. I just wanted to show you what I was doing. And again, with my paper towel, I'm just going to try to get as much of that blue off as possible. Okay, we'll work with that. So now I'm going to take some white, just put some white on my paintbrush. And I'm going to put some clouds in. I'm just tapping. That's what Bob Ross does. He taps. Okay. So I'm not cleaning my brush. I'm just wiping it off to get the excessive paint off of it. And then I'm just going to take my brush and very gently kind of pull the clouds up a little bit. I'm going in the same direction here. And then again, very gently. Just blending. And I'll wipe off my brush again on the side, off camera. And just try to blend all this in here. I'm going to take just a little bit more of that Prussian blue and white that I had mixed together. And just maybe a little more Prussian blue to get it a little darker. There we go. That'll blend it nicely. I'm wiping off my brush, and I want to try to blend that a bit better. Okay, so now I've just got the idea of some clouds on the top of my canvas. I'm just going to clean my paintbrush. I'm not going to do it over my painting because I am having a feeling that I might spill. So just off camera, I'm cleaning off my brush, and I'm kind of wiping it on the side to get as much of that solvent off the brush as possible. But yeah, if you have 2 brushes, I think that would work better, or even 3 or 4. And I'm going to just dip it into that extra bowl there to get as much off as I can. I'm going to be using Prussian blue, so I'm not too worried that there is blue on it. I just don't want to have excess paint on it. And I'm just, as I did before, trying to get it as dry as possible. When I first started painting, oil painting, oh boy, did I make a mess. I made such a huge mess. I had paint all over me and paint all over the table, and it was a big mess. But I sort of started getting better at that, so now it's not so bad. Palette brush time, my friends. All right, so Prussian blue here. I'm just flattening out my bead or my paint like this. And then what I'm going to do is cut through it. And I've got a little bead of paint on there. It's hard to see, but there is a bead of paint on there. So I'm going to make my mountains. I'm doing the same thing, just cutting through it to grab a little bead of paint. I just really wanted to have fun with the palette knife today. Haven't used it in a while. Just play around with this. We're not looking for perfection, remember? All right, so now I'm taking that brush that I cleaned off, and I want to pull the paint down. And then I'm just going to try to blend it a little bit into the sky, because I think that our mountain is emerging through the clouds today. I'm going to add a little more mountain there on this side. All right, I'm just having fun. I had no plan really. Okay. I'm just going to wipe off my brush a little bit to get the excess paint off it. And I want to just keep trying to blend that mountain down. I want it to really seem like it's popping up in the sky. Or maybe this could be water too. So now why don't we put some snow on the mountain? Okay, so I've got my white. I've cleaned off my palette brush, or my palette knife. I'm flattening it out, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm trying to get a bead of white at the end of my palette knife. And I'm just going to go very, very lightly to add some snow. I'm really not pressing down hard at all, seriously. I need more. Wiping off my palette brush, and I'm going to get another bead here. Okay, there's my bead of white. And if you press down very lightly, then you get, you know, that effect. Isn't that neat? That sort of snowy effect. Wiping off my palette knife and getting another bead. Bead of white. Oh, I really like how that looks. That is so cool. That actually looks like a mountain. Why am I so surprised? So I'm just going to kind of flatten out the white at the bottom. And I'm going to go in and try to make another color here with some of the Prussian blue and the white. And I've got Prussian blue here. I want to have like a lightish blue color here. Okay. Oh, that's nice. I love that. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to get a bead of that color. Okay, I have a little bead of the color. I know it's hard to see. And I'm going to go in and put shadows. If I can manage this without touching my canvas. Same thing. Just pulling it down. Getting another little bead. I may not even use my black color. Maybe I'll take a little black, just the tiniest little bit of black, and mix that in. And it'll make it kind of a grayish blue. Got my bead. Let's see what that looks like. Try to make this coming down here. Grab another little bead. But we put a little here too. Just a little for the shadow. I think that looks great. I'm going to wipe off my palette brush and I'm going to try to pull some of that paint down a little more. And with oil, if you don't like what you did, you can kind of pull some of it off. You could use a paper towel if you want. I'm going to grab a little bit of white with that blue in it. Just kind of add a little bit here because I don't like how that gray looks down there. Oh, that's looking good so far. I'd like to put a little bit more snow on my mountains, so I'm going to take a little bit more of my white color and put that on my palette. And I'm going to do the same thing with my palette knife. I'm flattening it out. There's a little blue on it, but that's okay. Flattening it out and then taking a little bead of white. I want that snow, let's see, come down like this. A little more snow on the mountain. So I'm grabbing another bead. Do you know what I mean by bead? I'm basically pushing in and pulling out to get a little bead at the edge of my knife. I'm going to wipe off my palette knife, pulling in and moving up to get that bead. All right, I'm having a good time. You know, when I think of mountains, I think of strength and how they weather every storm, right? We could learn a lot from mountains. Sometimes you're in a spot in life where it's tough. And I know I've been there. I go through it. I am going through it. It's tough. Life can be tough, you know? Look to the mountains. They stand tall. They're not intimidated by the little things, right? All right. So I'm going to clean my brush and dry it off, and then I'm going to blend a little bit. So now what I'm going to do is, I learned this watching Bob Ross too. He loves to tap. So I'm just going to tap the bottom of the mountains. And it kind of makes it look like a little bit of mist at the bottom of the mountains. Okay, I don't like what I did there. What I'm going to do is grab a piece of paper towel, because I got a little bit of that gray there. I don't want it there, so I'm just going to wipe it off. You can do that with oil. Just be careful though, you know, you don't want to have to reblend everything. Okay, I actually have a little bit of white there, and I'm going to try something if I can find my tools. I've got some cotton swabs that I use for charcoal blending, so I'm going to try to see if I can pull off that little white blob there, and it worked. Look at that. I can clean up my mountains here. Neat. So yeah, tap, tap, tap. I always say tapping my heart and sending you love. Now I'm tapping my canvas and sending you love. I'm just wiping off the excess paint, and I'm just going to give it a little bit of a blend down here. And that's it, my friends. I just wanted to paint a mountain today, and I'm pretty happy with the results. Did you follow along? I hope you did. And look, no paint on my hands. Real cool. I hope you enjoyed it today, my friends, and if you did, please like and subscribe and leave me a comment. I love your comments, and I do reply to all of them. And share this video with anyone you might think would enjoy it. I'd really appreciate it. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time on Rain Francis Art. Bye.